Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? I wish you are having a great time here in SDC. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Hobum Kwon, and I'm working as a principal engineer at Samsung. I joined Samsung 15 years ago, and for the last 7 years, I've been leading Tizen API team, working things like API, SDK, and other things to expand Tizen application ecosystem. It's a great honor to be here and to present to the audience like you who are using Samsung device every day and also creating application for Samsung device. Without you, I would have no chance to stand right here, right now. So, title of this session is What's New in Tizen .NET? New update for Galaxy Watch and Samsung TV. So from the title, you might ask yourself, what is Tizen and why Tizen and what is Tizen.NET means. So I will do my best to explain what is Tizen and what is Tizen.NET framework. So let's set the agenda first. This session will be divided into 3 sessions. So I will introduce Tizen platform and Tizen.NET. Then I will introduce Brandon Minnick from Microsoft to tell you about the Xamarin framework. And after Brandon's talk, I will come back again. I will give you 10 new updates in Tizen.NET with some demo, and then there will be a Q&A. So I have one question. How many of you use Tizen SDK to create application here? Great. And how many of you use Xamarin or .NET framework to create application? Great. Okay. So the first topic is Tizen. Tizen is a Linux-based operating system since 2012, and Tizen has been optimized, designed, and deployed to consumer electronic device. In 2012, I was lucky enough to join a project which eventually became the Tizen open source platform. And there are a lot of Samsung contributors to Tizen platform who have been adding new features and debugging, optimizing for consumer electronic device, and testing, releasing. So what kind of device I'm talking about here? So Samsung TVs since 2015, and also the Galaxy Watches from 2014, and the Family Hub refrigerator from 2016. So all those devices are running Tizen operating system. Because Tizen platform is open source project, so all the effort we have made are available in the source Git repository in tizen.org. So you visit there, you can download source code and SDK, and you can put this platform to Raspberry Pi. You can play with it. So one update to you is Tizen 5.0 Milestone 2 has been just released in November 2018. So please visit the website and download SDK and having fun with the new cool features. So let me tell you about Tizen platform from the perspective of application developer. So currently there are 3 application models in Tizen. The first one, we introduced a web application model. So you can use web technology to create applications just like other platforms. But one drawback of web application is the performance is not as fast as native application. So around 2014, we decided to add native application model, which shows the best performance. It has very lightweight and it launches really quick. But one drawback for native application model is it's kind of hard to create application with the native API. So the beginning of 2016, we began the project called Tizen.NET. So I will talk about that. Tizen.NET is basically we ported Microsoft .NET Core Runtime onto Tizen. So we contribute to the ARM port of .NET Core. We ported .NET Core, and then we tested 34,000 APIs, which .NET Core include. The whole purpose of this project is to give the best development experience to the user, because the other two we previously opened was some VOC, a lot of VOC to improve the IDE, and also we got some requests for managed runtime and also object-oriented programming API. We added this. We thought by adding .NET runtime and all the IDE and the cool stuff to Tizen, I thought we can solve these issues to the developers. So after 2 years of research and development, finally Tizen.NET Framework is available on Tizen 4.0 platform. Then what kind of device currently be able to run Tizen.NET application? 2018 Samsung Smart TV is based on Tizen 4.0. Thus, it has a .NET runtime. You can run applications on it. And also, Galaxy Watch just released has a .NET runtime, so it's cool still Tizen.NET runtime application can running on it. So someone might wonder how you achieve the high productivity in Tizen.NET. I believe there are 6 reasons, the core reasons for it. So the first one is C# programming language. C# programming language is as powerful as Java if you are a Java programmer. And this is object-oriented language, and it is strong type. So if you are writing application more than 100,000 lines, it's kind of easier to maintain. And there are cool new features are continuously added to C# because C# is one of the programming languages used by Microsoft platform also. Another point is .NET Core Runtime and .NET Core API. There are more than 32,000 APIs defined in .NET standard, and .NET Core Runtime is running on Linux, Mac, and Windows platform. And this is, has a cross-platform feature. So once you write application in C#, and then you can run without compile on those platforms. And there is also a strong community for Microsoft .NET Framework, estimated 8 million developers. Okay. Another point is Visual Studio. So Visual Studio has been one of leading IDE for a very, very long time. So it provides cool features like IntelliSense, and there are a lot of extensions, tools created by third parties. And also it is integrated with the NuGet package manager. So if something is not available, you search in the gallery and you pull down to your application. So with these foundations, we still need a UI framework which can create application really easily. So we introduced Xamarin framework to Tizen.NET. We ported Xamarin, which was open source in 2016. And also, we added Tizen FX, which is Tizen-specific APIs, which provide the full access to the Tizen native frameworks. If you are trying to make a serious application, you need to access sensors, Bluetooth, NFC. You need all those kind of APIs. So in Tizen FX API, even though it's Tizen specific, you still need to use those APIs in your application. And there is also UI controls we have designed and implemented according to the UX guide of Samsung devices, such as Galaxy or Samsung TV. Okay, I will talk about that later. So Tizen.NET, as I mentioned, includes the Xamarin framework. It provides a cross-platform UI and with tons of developer references. And the API is quite straightforward. So let me ask Brandon Minnick from Microsoft to come up to the stage, tell you about the Xamarin framework.
Thanks, Vincent. Yeah, thanks. All right. Well, thanks so much, Vincent. And thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first time speaking at Samsung Developer Conference. And so thanks so much for having me. My name is Brandon Minnick. I work as a developer advocate at Microsoft. And as a developer advocate, I'm an engineer, just like you. My job is I'm not in sales, I'm not in marketing. I like to play with cool things, show them off to you, and I also want to see what cool things you're working on. I want to help you get past your bugs, get past any new features you want. So do really want to keep in touch, and that's why at the bottom of the slides you'll see a couple links. On the left there is my Twitter handle. Please reach out to me anytime. I want to know what cool projects are you working on? How can I help? Do you have questions? Even if it's not about something at Xamarin or .NET, I can find somebody to help you answer the question. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. I keep my direct messages open just for that reason. And then also on the bottom right, we have a link. That's a web page that Vincent and I put together just for you, just for today. This is where you can find all the cool stuff that we're doing today. So I'll be going through a demo today showing off Xamarin Forms. Vincent will keep going with Xamarin Forms on Tizen. The links to that source code is all right there. The slides, that's included right there. And if you want to continue on, you want to keep learning more about using Xamarin or Xamarin Forms and Tizen.net, we also have some links to help you get started as well. So those links will be there at the bottom of the slides. Make sure to pull out your phone, snap a picture of that, bookmark it, whatever, so that you can follow up and learn even more. Let's jump into it. So Vincent asked me to come along and so we can dive a little bit deeper into what is .NET and what is Xamarin Forms, for all these buzzwords we keep hearing getting thrown around. And .NET is a framework that basically allows you to do anything. In .NET, you can do desktop apps, you can make web apps, mobile apps, cloud apps, gaming. You can write code for IoT devices. You can write code to build, train, run machine learning and AI models. .NET basically lets you do anything, but .NET isn't a language, it's a framework. It's a framework of a bunch of libraries that enable all these features and make your life easier when you're creating these tools. And what we usually use is C#. So C# runs on .NET. Microsoft also has a couple different languages. So we have C#, F#, and Visual Basic. All of those actually run on .NET. So that's pretty cool because C#, that's my favorite. That's the one I love. It's object-oriented. F# is our functional programming language. But since they both run on .NET, if you're familiar with the system libraries that already exist in C#, you can jump right into either F# or Visual Basic and feel right at home. So it's an amazingly powerful framework. And on top of that runs Xamarin. So to understand what Xamarin is, it kind of helps to know why Xamarin was created. And this was how we used to have to make apps when iOS and Android first came out, right? Both iOS and Android have their own unique languages. They have their own unique platforms. So if you were going to create an iOS app, you would be doing it in Objective-C and Xcode. Your Android app, you'd write it in Java, in Android Studio. And nowadays, of course, you can use Kotlin or Swift. And yeah, at the end of the day, you end up with a beautiful native app. Looks great, animations, pixel perfect. You have all these nice native APIs you have access to. But it's essentially the same app. And we're in this weird space nowadays where if an app exists in the iOS App Store, your users expect that app to be there in the Google Play Store, but they don't really understand how much work that is for us. They don't understand that we have to have two teams building out these apps, that these apps, while they look and feel similar, they're not actually running the exact same code. So Xamarin came along, and what we did, we made it so that you can create both iOS and Android apps in C#. Now, all Xamarin does, we just wrap every single iOS API and expose it to you in C#. We wrap every single Android API and expose it to you in C#. So if you're familiar with writing code in Swift or Java or Objective-C or Kotlin, you'll feel right at home at Xamarin because it's the same exact APIs. The only difference is now we're in C#. And because we're in C#, now we can actually keep these two apps in the same solution, and they can actually share code. So no longer do we have to have two teams building and maintaining our apps. We can have one team actually working on both iOS and Android. And we can have one place where we fix a bug once, and it's done. We add a feature once, and it's done. We don't have to worry about these two code bases becoming farther and farther, drifting farther and farther apart as they grow and add features because, well, now we can share that code base. And that shared C# logic, that ends up being about 40 to 60% of your overall code. So huge time savings, and the best part is it's still totally native. When you click the compile button, that app or that code still boils down into the native IPA or the native APK file. You still get access to all the native APIs. It's the exact same performance. Your phone doesn't know the difference because there is no difference. So with Xamarin, we were able to get about 40 to 60% shared code there, but you'll notice those UIs at the top. Those UIs are still made separately, and that's because on iOS, typically we use storyboards, or if you prefer, you can do Zibs, or you can write your UI in code. And it's the same exact way in Xamarin. So just like you would do in Xcode, you do have the same exact tools and same exact functionality for Xamarin. And likewise on Android, you can use the Android designer. You can use Android XML files if you want to create your app in code. Did I get you? All right. So same exact experience, but a couple years after Xamarin came out, one of our developers was thinking about it, and he's like, you know what? I get it. The UIs are different, but if I just want to put a button on the screen, why can't I just say, I want a button on the screen, and then let the compiler turn that into a UI button on iOS, or let the compiler turn that into a Android widget button on Android. And that is actually where Xamarin Forms, or the idea for Xamarin Forms was created. So with Xamarin Forms, we kind of take this code sharing one step further. So we're not just sharing that business logic in the app, we're actually able to share UI code as well. And so what's really great with Xamarin Forms is we're writing the UI once, but when you click compile, you still get all the native UI. So even though we just said put a button on the center of the screen, when I compile that down to the APK file, that's going to be an Android widget button. That's going to be an Android edit text. It's still native UI. It's still a totally native app. You still have 100% access to all the native UIs, native APIs, just like you do in Xamarin. But now we only have to write our UI once. And Xamarin Forms has actually evolved over the years. So it's not even just iOS and Android anymore, but we also support UWP, macOS, GTK Sharp, WPF, and of course, Tizen. And so look at that. With one code base, the same Xamarin Forms UI code, the same business logic powering your app, you can have 6 different apps just from using Xamarin Forms and writing that code once. So enough talking about it. Let's actually jump in and check out and see what Xamarin Forms actually looks like. So I have with me, this is a sample app I made called Face Off, and I have it running here on my Android and iOS devices. And right away, you'll notice that the two apps look similar, but they're still very much native. Now, this was written in Xamarin Forms, yet the UIs are still totally native. So check that out. On iOS, you still get the UI text field with the rounded corners, the UI button with the very flat design that iOS likes. Android, we get to take advantage of material design. So those text fields there have the underlines. You have the material design button with a little shadow underneath it. And all of this was produced from the same code. So I only had to write that code once, and it all just compiled down into these native UIs. And just to show you kind of what it looks and feels like, so for Face Off, it's a game that pits 2 players head to head, and the idea is it gives you an emotion, and it sees who can make that emotion best. So let's try it out real quick. So it tells me fear. It says, Brandon, take a selfie looking scared. So let's give that a shot. That looks like a pretty scary selfie, and 61%. Okay, I guess that's a little bit of sadness in there, but there you go. So you still get the native UI, native animations. It's all very smooth and performant because it is totally native. And check out what this code looks like. So I'm in Visual Studio on the Mac here. If you prefer writing your code on the PC, you can still do that in Visual Studio on the PC as well. But check this out. So this is the code for my welcome page. And as we kind of read it top to bottom, you see me create the player one label. It's a dark blue label with the text player one. Well, check out what's at the top of that app right there. It says player one in dark blue. And then I create a player one entry where they can enter their name. Xamarin Forms calls these text boxes entries, so we'll roll with that. Player two label, dark blue label, there it is, player two. We have the player two entry. And as I scroll down, we have the start game button. And we call out the title. I said it's face off, the background color, and we put it all inside of a stack layout. So just like you would do in Android, we have stack layouts in Xamarin Forms. We have relative layouts in Xamarin Forms. And so it's a very similar feel, even though now we're sharing this UI across all these different platforms. So this 50, 60 lines of code gave me both an iOS UI and an Android UI, which is pretty amazing. All right, my time's almost up. So if you haven't already, now's your last chance. Take out your phone, make sure you grab a shot of that link there, because that's the site that we put together just for you. That's where you can find the slides from today for both presentations. That's where you can find the sample apps if you like to face off, or if you like the demo apps that Vince will be showing in just a minute. Those are all open source, available for you. And again, if you want to dive deeper, we have links there to help you get started, help you install Xamarin, get started with Tizen and .NET. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. My direct messages are always open. And with that, Vincent, I'll pass it back to you.
So thank you, Brandon. It was really fun talk. So now let's talk about 10 new updates in Tizen.NET. Actually, this is the moment I have been looking forward for the last 3 years. For 3 years, Tizen.NET team in Samsung Research, we have been working on many things to start new application ecosystem around the Tizen.NET. And I think now is the time we prepare all the important part. So let's see what are those 10 updates. The first one and most exciting ones are now the application stores are ready for Tizen.NET application. So you can write application and you can register your apps to Galaxy apps for Watch and also the Samsung apps for Samsung Smart TV. And the devices I already mentioned about supporting 2018 Samsung Smart TV and this year Galaxy Watch, they are supporting Tizen.NET. So check out the website below. So you write application with the tool we provide, Visual Studio tools for Tizen and Max app, test on emulator and the device, and you can register app right now. The second news is we are releasing Tizen Circular UI for Galaxy Watch. This is an additional UI control designed and implemented for the user scenario of the Galaxy Watch. Sometimes it is natural to follow the user interface scenario of a specific device. For example, the Galaxy Watch is kind of unique because it has a circular display. It has a very small screen size compared to mobile device. And it has a bezel. You can rotate and user event is generated. So to give the best user experience in your watch application, it is kind of natural to use this UI control. But earlier, I was talking about to use Xamarin Forms, your watch application. But Xamarin Forms normally covers the common UI controls for mobile device. So that's why we created this UI control. So I think it can make you really write watch application really easy. So some of the UI controls we provide you can see circular page, circular list, and pop-up and radio button toast. So we have this more than dozen UI controls. So you create application. Anyway, we open sourced it, everything. So you can go to the, okay, see the previous page. Okay, it's working. Okay, so you go to the website, to the GitHub, you can see the source code, and you can even customize for your own purpose. So this is included in the application project, so you can freely modify that. Okay. And we added a template in Visual Studio. You go to File, New, go to Visual C# and Tizen, and you select this Tizen wearable apps or Tizen wearable watch. You can just run it, and you can see watch face or watch apps on emulators and also the devices. So next one is Tizen TV UI for Samsung Smart TV. This is similar concept to previous one. So but TV is much similar to the mobile, but it has input method is the biggest difference. So we cannot use the touch screen on mobile device. So you need the remote controller to direction buttons, enter buttons. So because of that, we added some additional UI component which follows the user interface scenario of Samsung Smart TV. So you can see the pictures of application. This application is actually available on the booth. You go to Tizen booth, TV booth, you can see that. These are some of the UI controls we added into the Tizen UI API. So media player and focus management and focus chain and some entries, pop-up for TV UX. So these are exposing native widget, so it's very fast. Okay. So next one is improving .NET Core runtime performance and also API correctness. So .NET Core runtime, if you remember back in the slide, it's an open source runtime, and this project is maintained by Microsoft, and it provides a high performance, and the compiler technology keep added to the .NET Core, and also this is cross-platform. You can run apps on .NET apps on Linux, Mac, and Windows, and there are around 32,000 APIs in .NET Standard, and new features are coming, as you can see the box below. So I mentioned about we optimized runtime, .NET runtime on Tizen device to give you more specific numbers, how fast it can be. You can see the watch application on your right side. We tested this app. We write this app very similar in native and C# and also web application, which are the three application model Tizen provided. And as you can see, first let's see the startup time. This is in milliseconds. For native, it's kind of launching in under 500 milliseconds, and web is kind of over 1 second. And the performance of .NET application, there are two red or orange bars in the graph. The right one is Xamarin Forms cross-platform application, so it can run on other platforms like Android, iOS. But the left one is Tizen.NET application use the Tizen-specific UI, which is a C# API on top of Tizen-specific native UI control, so it removes that cool cross-platform thing. But if we want to achieve the highest performance, we have to do that. So you can see it's much closer to native, and we are continuing improving performance. And talking about memory usage, which is also very important in gear device, watch device, and also TV device. This is in kilobytes, so native is around under kind of near 10 megabytes. And you can see the similar patterns to .NET applications, consumes much less memory than web application. So what we are trying to do is we give another option to developer to create application. We are not deprecating existing application model. We are giving more object-oriented APIs to the developer with much widely used Visual Studio. I think we can, if you are using that, I think that's much convenient to create applications. And we try to ensure the correctness of the API. These 32,000 APIs, we are testing over 500,000 test cases. We excluded some of the test cases not really suitable for consumer electronic device. And we will keep testing this whenever we have some modification. So we implemented CI for it. So what we're trying to do is we ensure the API compatibility and the correctness of the behavior. That's the update. So next one is Tizen FX API. This is access to Tizen native framework. There are many Tizen native frameworks, such as application, which manage life cycle of application, and you can call app control API to launch other application. And there are multimedia application, multimedia API and messaging, networking that include the Bluetooth, NFC, Wi-Fi. So those APIs are not the part of .NET Core, .NET Standard API. So we had to introduce these APIs because the applications we are targeting is every possible application. So if you need to access the sensor, we should provide the API. Even though this is Tizen specific, we try to create apps, but without these APIs, it's very hard to create really like apps like in preloaded in Galaxy Watch. So two other APIs I would like to mention here is on the right bottom, there is a ELM shop, which is a beta version of API, which is a thin wrapper on top of EFL API. So we're still trying to improve the design of this API. So probably next year we can release the first official version of it. And also there's a NUI, Natural User Interface API, which is specially designed to give more animations. So we released this Tizen FX API, and we keep the API version same for all Tizen devices. What I'm saying is, on TV, on watches, it has an API version. So all the APIs are available. You just need to check whether this API is supported or not. That is much improvement to previous native and web API. Another one is there are more third-party Xamarin or .NET Standard open source libraries, like a Skia shop. That's kind of an essential part if you create application for Xamarin Forms. It provides 2D vector graphic and FF image loading that's widely used in Xamarin Forms application. So all these projects now support Tizen platform. Some of them we contributed directly, and there are some of them still not the official NuGet package, including Tizen platform yet, but their future version will include it. So with these APIs, you can create much Xamarin Forms application. I will show some demo later. So next one is we are going to support appium. Currently, we are under development. So if you want to write UI test for Tizen.NET, we will provide some template. You can write script in the following slide. Okay. Like as you can see, we will provide a way APIs. You write your test application, and in our inside development team, we use appium whenever we change UI control, because as you know, if you change UI controls, the behavior and looks can be changed. So it's always should be checked. So next update is Xamarin Essential for Tizen. As I mentioned, Xamarin is UI framework, UI controls, which enables cross-platform UI definition. But if you write Xamarin Forms application, you feel you need something more than just UI control. You still use NET standard API, like XML collection. They are standard API, but if you want to access device APIs like accelerometer, battery, or compass, those things are very platform specific. There is a way you can write interface and implement for each platform, but that's kind of annoying sometimes. So Xamarin project started Xamarin Essential, which defined currently 30 modules of APIs for very fundamental, frequently used APIs. And we are also contributing to Xamarin Essential. It hasn't released the 1.0 official NuGet yet, but we believe it soon be released. So next one is tools update. We added many templates. The official name of SDK is Visual Studio Tools for Tizen. There are additional tools we already added, like manifest editors, emulators, and log viewers. And this year, we added more profiler features, and we are planning to improve the debugger stuff next release. So we are continuing effort to give you the best tool experience. The last but not least one is more samples and more documents. Because I have been a leader of API team, I met a lot of developers, and one of common VOC is give me more samples, give me more documents. So these are the samples we already uploaded to GitHub. So you see the address below. So we added wearable apps, around 35, 48 apps, and there are also TV apps you can download run on emulators. So if I introduce some of the apps, this is kind of voice memo app. This is STT app. You speak and it shows some text and you can record. I will show that later. And there is a TMDV app, and this app is also, you can see the Tizen booth. We had a 65-inch TV, so you can see the demo directly. Okay, I will show some demo right now. We have 6 minutes, so I will try to show you really quickly because we have demo outside booth. So the app I'm going to show you is Smart Hotel 360. This app was used in Connect in 2017, and we ported this app to Tizen platform. So this is Xamarin Forms app, so I will show that. Okay. So this is a smart hotel for Windows. I ran on simulators for Windows platform, and we ported to Tizen. This is a TV emulator showing the same application we ported. There are many third-party libraries also used in these applications. So next demo I will show is voice memo application for wearable. Okay, this is the project. So Xamarin Forms application consists of 2 projects. One is the common project across the common UI project or business logic like this. And this is the Tizen specific project, which you put all the Tizen specific APIs here. So I will try to run on emulators. So this is a Tizen emulator. So I just started launching this voice memo application. You can speak whatever, and it shows a text like this. I will try. Okay, let me try again. Samsung. So this is, you can play with SDK emulators. So that's the end of demo. It's quite quick, but you can go there come to our booth. We have two booths actually. There's a TV booth, and in the Galaxy Watch we have another booth. Okay. So for summary, Tizen platform is currently running on 1 billion devices. And Tizen.NET will bring you high productivity, consistent development environment for the old Tizen devices. And also, Xamarin Forms will give you the cross-platform capability. And you can now register apps to Watch and TV store. This is one thing I would like to remember after this session. So go to the website and download SDK and create apps and register. And we are adding more APIs like Tizen Effect, Circular UI APIs, TV APIs, and more Xamarin third-party APIs, and of course more samples. So this is the end of my session. So if you have any question, please raise your hand. Okay.
Hi, I have two questions. The first one is, do you need Windows to do Tizen Tizen.NET, or is this also going to work on Mac? And the second question is, can you actually, so you showed the emulator deploying the samples and sort of the apps to the emulator. Can you also deploy to the actual TV if it's in developer mode? And can you get real-time debugging?
Yeah, sure. I will ask the first question again. But for the second question, yeah, you can run applications on emulators, also the devices. Okay. What was the first question?
Windows, like, do you need Windows for that, or?
Yeah, sure. Visual Studio for Mac, that's kind of coming later.
Oh, I see. So it's not there yet. So right now, if you want to do this, you need Windows.
You can write Xamarin application, but the emulator stuff for Tizen is still under development, okay. So it will come later.
And then what about debugging?
Debugging?
Debugging on the device. So let's say you want to do real-time debugging on the device. Is that supported in Tizen?
From Tizen 5.0, you can do that.
Okay, so not for so for that, the 2018 TV, does that have 5.0?
We have some issues, so I think you better wait for update or later version.
So Tizen 4.0, I cannot do real-time debugging.
We have some issues on debugger.
Okay, yeah. I see. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my question is about Bixby. What if you want to have apps with Bixby? I haven't seen Bixby as part of the Tizen FX API, so how does that work?
Okay, so Tizen FX is open source project, and Bixby is kind of Samsung specific services. So what I'm saying is currently Bixby is not part of our Tizen FX scope. And probably it will not be Tizen FX scope, but we can maybe provide additional API, just like a TV UI package. They are kind of additional project for Samsung specific service. So we may consider to create for Bixby API, and you may pull down this NuGet package later, but that's not part of Tizen FX, and maybe never be part of Tizen FX, I think.
But right now, if I want to develop an app with Bixby support, what do I do?
Currently, there is no support for Bixby at this time. But we will try to figure out how we provide this Bixby APIs in Tizen.NET. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other question? Okay. Thank you.